Okay, well, welcome everybody. I just want to mention that I kind of look like a referee today, so don't let me get a red card. Don't let me lift a red card on you.
Yeah, I wasn't
Then
going to
you'd have to
mention
miss
it,
the. Yeah, a red card means
Yeah, I
you'd have to
usually
miss
wear-
the next two interviews, right? That's how that
Yeah,
works.
exactly. Exactly.
we're already in like
Okay,
a penalty
so-
box.
I have a list of questions that I will ask you all, and kind of point to you. First of all, Billy, I love your setup. I love all the guitars and stringed instruments on your back wall.
Thanks.
And you have one of those cool Yeti mics. That's a Yeti, isn't
Oh,
it?
no, actually, it is Blue brand, but because I
Blue
have
bla- yes.
the booth here, this is a Bluebird, which I'm not even sure if they make anymore.
Oh.
It's just sort of an entry-level mic, but since I have the interface set up anyway, I thought it looked slick to hang it here.
Well, it looks really cool.
I look like a podcaster.
You do. You do. You look like professional. That's really cool. Okay, so though I think the other thing to mention is that I'm the only one that is allowed to drone on like an old person.
I think
So-
you have the
this
wrong
is your
three
party.
people. You want brevity?
100%.
And so, just for reference for everybody that's listening out there, we're talking about Moonlight and Love Songs, a new audio drama, romantic comedy audio drama, produced between Battleground Productions and Dramafy. And so let's, in 60 seconds or less, tell us what the show Moonlight and Love Songs is about.
So I'll just go first, but feel free to chime in, guys. Moonlight and Love Songs is a new series that's about a young woman who's starting a life in a new town, and she figures out pretty quickly that one of her neighbors is a male witch, and also a male witch that she kind of thinks is cute. So it's in many ways kind of a story about new beginnings and new relationships, but also like some of the material and the conflicts we need to get over until we really know someone. And that's kind of an interesting time in terms of any relationship, but particularly a romance.
Oh, well.
We'll do our
Okay,
best.
and this is because I've listened to all of up to 8, can't wait for 9, which publishes on the 19th, if I remember correctly. How did you get the idea for Moonlight and Love Songs? I always like to ask those things.
Hey, that's a great question. I'm not sure if I have a specific and good answer, but overall, what I would say is the original idea was I was pitched to be presenting something that was in genre. And I hadn't done a romance genre before, but I've always liked the idea because who doesn't like a good kind of romance these days, especially because there's a lot of kind of discomfort out there in the world. And the one thing you always know about a romance is it almost inevitably has a happy ending. So, and I like overall the idea of being able to talk about love in a way that is maybe both sort of optimistic and somewhat realistic. Of course, love never runs smooth. And the initial conflict of all of that is really kind of fun for a writer.
Anybody else want to jump in? Billy, do you want to jump in? I should introduce you. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Billy. My name is Billy Wildrick. I play Tyler in Moonlight and Love Songs. What I love about this series, it's about relationships, it's about beginnings, and it's about merging perspectives. Tyler and Walter couldn't have more disparate viewpoints on the world, and over the course of the series, you watch them wrestle with how it's still the same in many ways. And I think that's beautiful for the world today, for us to come together in conversation and figure out, oh, I thought I completely disagreed with you. I thought I didn't believe at all in what you believe in, but it turns out there are some systemic truths in both of our perspectives that make this beautiful harmony.
Good. And Josh, how about you?
Hi. I am Josh Carter. I play Walter in this really fun story. I I want to add
Just
because
frolic through witchcraft.
indeed. I also I want to throw in because I agree obviously with John's perspective and I agree with Billy's perspective. I just want to throw one thing out there. That I also think that there is a through line of kind of solid self-acceptance that there's Tyler is who she is and she believes what she believes, but she's also willing to accept things because she is solidly in the ground. And Walter is who he is. I mean, he's a straw boater wearing, witchcraft wielding, home cook. And he is when pushed against, when those beliefs are pushed against, or there's a line in the show where it's, hey, can we call you something other than a witch? He keeps his solid sense of self and says, this is who I am. And I thought that was okay with you. And so I think that is also a key part of the story. So that's one of the themes, along with what the other two collaborators have said.
Nicely
Collaborators.
said.
That sounds like we're starting a revolution. Sorry about
Yes.
that. The other two artists here have said.
I like the word creatives because back in the day we never used the words creative. It was like co-production team, but now it's
sure.
like creatives. What's that? Okay, now I know. So John, were you influenced by Bewitched? Were you bewitched by Bewitched?
I don't.
Because
I don't think I was entirely, though. You can't. It was one of those shows I think that was on when I was a little kid, so you can never quite tell. You're going along just thinking, why do we have such strange feelings towards robots? And then you realize, I watched Lost in Space when I was,
Lost in
6
Space.
years old. If I was influenced by any other media, there was a film called I Married a Witch with Veronica Lake back in the 1940s. And I saw that not too long ago. And I actually thought it was completely and absolutely charming. I think it probably also influenced Bewitched, but it was, I think, one of the first sort of fantasy films along those lines, where you had just kind of the mundane world and right next to it, just something kind of very frothy and fantasy, just kind of right on the other side of it. So I would say that it's not necessarily a new story, the idea of witchcraft sort of invading suburbia, but I did think that maybe even if it was just switching the genders and having a male witch and a woman who is a kind of science-minded in the background, maybe that's one of the things that I was hoping would be a little different about it.
Hang on, I'm
Good,
sorry.
'cause I was
Dun-dun, dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. Oh, I had to get it out. I was bopping to it in my brain, and I just had to express it. Okay, please go ahead.
well, I was kind of hoping that Esme would be more like Aunt Clara, but okay.
Sure. Was it Samantha? Her mother? No, Samantha's mother was
Samantha. Endora.
Endora. There is
Yes. Agnes
Endora.
Moorehead.
Agnes Moorehead.
I know. So one must ask, John, why a romance with a witch?
Yeah. Well, I think
Why not a
both what-
romance with a witch?
I think partly what both Billy and Josh have sort of said has really kind of influenced that is I wanted something about different cultures kind of coming forward, and also this fundamental idea of acceptance, which is really particularly important these days. That there's some aspect that we've all got, particularly in the modern age and the way that the internet has influenced people. We're all very siloed increasingly into very small ideas about what the world is, what's good, what's bad, these sort of things. And one of the other realities is that in our lives, we have to get outside of those to connect with other people, whether it's dating or politics or something else. We have to start to understand that our one perspective is not the only perspective of the world. So I think that's more than anything what I was interested in sort of looking at is the way that, when these two people meet, she's got a very clear idea about the way the world works. And the first thing that happens is that she understands it might not work like that at all. So I think that was more than anything what I felt that I wanted to kind of explore was the way that our own little ideas about the way the world works. They work for us, but once we start to understand that everyone else has a slightly different idea of the world, we do see that we have to kind of make those, we have to be able to climb outside of our own ideas about the way it all is put together.
Well, and I think it's interesting how I think it's in, is it in episode 6 or episode 7 when you bring Esme, the cookie bearing neighborhood hello person. You bring the attitudes of the world and how the world sees Walter and the prejudice that the world sees with Walter. I mean, and you do it in a very light way, but it's still kind of, there's still that kind of nefariousness that's underneath it. So I think that was a nice touch. What's it like to write a romance? Have you said you haven't done a lot of romances. Yeah. What were the pros? What were the cons? Did you find that you ran into any walls? What's it like writing a romance?
I think that, writing a romance was something that I think I'd written works that have romances in them before, because a romance is a really good story engine. Everyone likes the idea of two people coming together in a particular fashion. So that was part of maybe my overall toolkit. But there's a main, I think one of the main reasons that men write romances less often than women is women have a deeper understanding of the complexities of the emotional game. Like, women bring so much in the way of strategies and ideas and themselves into it, whereas men, I think, are fairly sort of limited in the way that we think about this. I used to use this metaphor. I don't think it's a great metaphor these days, but it used to work for me quite a bit, that men and women meet on a basketball court and they say, let's play a game. And they start, and pretty soon everyone's yelling at each other. And that's because I think women have shown up to play basketball, which is a fairly complex game. There are lots of rules about what works and what doesn't. And men have shown up to shoot hoops, or maybe like play horse, right? It's kind of like, we're just getting the ball, we're putting it through the basket. That's what we're doing. Whereas women have a lot of complexities about it. And they're saying, you can't do that. You didn't dribble. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. And I said, what are you talking about? I got the ball through the hoop. What else are we talking about here? So for me as a storyteller, it was really interesting to slow down and start to think about these things in terms of the many rules and ideas and strategies that go into two people coming together, which most of the time is kind of left for the woman to try to figure out, while the man just kind of stands around looking a little gormless.
I think you should name a character Gormless. I think Gormless Peterson would be a great name.
Season
for
2.
Little gnome.
Season 2.
Gormless Peterson. Actually, Esme's husband is named Gormless.
There it is.
Yeah. Good call.
Gormless Kestrel?
Her new, yeah.
I'm glad we're already writing fan fiction, so this is good.
We are. We are. Billy, why were you excited or interested in doing this particular show? Because I know you're a busy actress. You could have done anything you wanted to, unless you were doing John a favor, and if you were, that's fine. But why were you interested and excited to do Moonlight and Love Songs?
While it is true that when John calls me, I will fight hard to figure out how to say yes, I also really loved the script. I loved the way that these characters came together and talked. It wasn't tropey, I guess, is a word I would use. It's thoughtful, like John always is. It was character driven. They were who they were.
It was gormless.
It was not. It was not gormless.
There was no gorm.
There was no.
Anywhere.
Oh yeah. Okay. No, there was gorm. I don't know. We'll have to unpack the gorm. It was
Gormful.
Gormful.
Unpack gormless.
Gormful.
And Tyler has a journey. There was growth and evolution, and that was interesting to me. As an actress, I do love to do voiceover work, and a lot of it hasn't been storytelling and fictional, the stuff that I've done. The full story is I never really did a lot of voiceover. It intersected with my path in the theater until the pandemic happened and the theater disappeared. I'm like, I liked doing voiceover. And I built a booth, and I really dug deep into engineering and got really excited about all of that. And I loved being in the booth, knowing no one was looking at me and deciding what I could be, knowing no one was making judgments based on, oh, well, she's blonde and she's this and she's this age, so she must be like this. I could be anybody. I could be a yappy little dog. I could be someone that you would imagine that, like on the cover art, that doesn't look like me, but I am her. So that's always really exciting for me.
Similarly, John called and I come running. I think he's a really unique and talented voice, and I'm always thrilled to play in whatever sandbox he creates. So that was just sort of right off the bat. It was like, yeah, sure, let's make time, let's figure this out. Beyond that, I agree with what Billy said in terms of the characters. I thought that you don't see a lot of, frankly, male, straight male characters that are portrayed in the way that Walter is portrayed. You, especially in romances, you either get you either get Mr. Darcy or you get sort of the fop, the sort of like, oh, I don't know what a spoon is, like that kind of, idiot. And I love the fact that there's this middle path, which is, from my experience of being a straight white cisgender male, is most of the people I know, and so being able to portray that in a romance was exciting and just connected to like my experience, which was neat. And then I also frankly, I hope, I don't know if I'm sort of spilling the tea here or something like that. In my career as an actor, I have not been able to perform directly with my wife for most of our relationship. We met doing a show, and then over the course of 14, 15 years, we've only really been able to play opposite each other, 3 times, something like that. Is that right? 3 or 4 times? And some of those times
repeatedly
was the same show that we just did over and over. And so to be able to play with Billy and to play with Billy with John's words and this character, it was just delightful. It was just an absolute treat, to the point that when it was still getting edited together and things were still being refined, I would sometimes do yard work and just listen to it over and over again, because it was just so fun to listen to the collision of those relationships. So that's what drew me to it. That's what keeps drawing me back to it. So.
And I totally forgot you're a husband-wife team. There you go. So where are you in the house?
She's that way. There's a kitchen betwixt us. So.
It's kind of like you're both outside. So, here's a good question. Why should people listen to this show? Let's go with John first.
Wow. Going back to what I'd said earlier is, I was hearing something not too long ago that was talking about the burgeoning popularity of romances, and even kind of interesting subgenres like romantasy. In some ways, Moonlight and Love Songs is where you mix up fantasy elements and romance. And again, I think part of it comes down to, hey, we all like a nice happy ending these days. And the basic definition of a romance is that you don't end it with someone dead and crying, right? You kind of...
Spoiler alert, no one's dead and crying.
Well, season 2.
I think that one of the things that maybe this does a little differently is we try to avoid the standard tropes of romance. We try to kind of get outside of the, should I choose the bad boy or should I choose the good guy? A lot of those kind of standard ideas we've tried to put to the side. And the other thing that these two actors really bring to the piece that I think that I enjoy listening to is that both Billy and Josh have strong comedy backgrounds, and they know how to lightly treat material. And there's something about kind of writing something where you're thinking, I think that this is funny dialogue. I think that this kind of hits a few things. And then actors come into it and you're like, oh yeah, no, it works. It works. And I think that that's the thing that, more than the show is short, but I don't think it's slight necessarily. I think that you can get these little fixes of these people, and hopefully, if we've done our job right, you'll like them and you want to spend a little bit of time with them, and can get more out of these two in 7 or 9 or 13 minutes than you necessarily could out of big budget shows with huge characters running around and everything. But at the same time, you kind of leave and you're like, now who was that guy again? What? And then was that his girlfriend, or was that his cousin? Or, you find yourself with those sort of questions. With a little romance like this, you're able to kind of spend longer in some ways, even though the shorts, as I said, are kind of light and relatively short.
Excellent. Billy, what was the most joyful part of creating this show, or being a part of this show?
It was.
And I'm going to ask that to you too, Joshua. So
oh, don't give him
thinking
prep
of it.
time. That's not
Oh yeah,
fair.
no, I clocked that. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'm just gonna take some
Well,
notes
you'll be
real quick.
spontaneous. He won't.
It was joy top to bottom for me because it was fun to jump in the booth with Josh, to wrangle him in and just find our rhythms again. Our comedy and our relationship is just all very rhythmically based. So the banter has a music to it, and it was fun to live in that music again. And it's fun for me to do the engineering. It's fun for me to do the audio capture in the studio as well. So, and stretching myself to make sure that I'm capturing it well was joyful. And it was fun to have a spoiler alert happy ending. But John already spoiled it, so it's
Well,
not
it is
me.
a romance, so yeah. It's like Hallmark movies end happily. Really? They do? Yeah. And Joshua.
So my answer is going to start a
Not
little
sure
serious.
I want to hear about you and Billy in the booth. You know what I'm saying? What happens in the booth
Scandalous.
stays in the booth.
Scandalous.
Scandalous. How dare you, madam?
That's my name. The girls are over there.
Yes.
Sorry, it's getting out of hand.
No, my answer is going to start slightly serious and then get joyful. So bear with me for a second. I before the pandemic pivoted actually in my career. I wasn't focused so much on my performing and my acting. I still did things. I still did a lot of shows I'm very proud of. But I actually pivoted in my career and went to nursing school and was working at a county hospital before and during the meat of the pandemic on a burn unit. And so
Wow.
I had been through some serious things and had without turning this into a story about me, had been traumatized by a lot of the things that I went through. And so I was struggling for a long time because I was also going to school during that time. I was struggling for a long time to find my joy, and was struggling for a long time to find my humor, and struggling to like reach out and connect with other people. And so the most joyful part of this for me was to sit in something that was just delightful and fun and charming, and to be able to play with my wife. And as she said, like, find that rhythm and find that musicality again and get it all back and reconnect with this person that I was before all of what happened. And so the being able to play in that sandbox was healing to me. So the most joyful part of it for me was to be able to touch all of those things, to touch all of those emotions, and to do it safely. It's awesome.
Thank you. Good. And you learn about tarot cards.
And you'll learn a few things about tarot cards.
Joshua,
Yes,
why should people listen to this show?
it is. I have a very simple answer to that. It's
Please.
really fun. It's
I was
really,
hoping
really fun.
someone would say that. I
Yeah.
didn't want to give you the line.
It is delightful. It is fun and delightful and filled with humor and kindness and beauty and magic, and it's just a wonderful tonic, I think, for everything that's happening right now. You just get to go somewhere else that is sweet and funny. And frankly, I don't know if this is a selling point. It's certainly a selling point for me, but you get to just sort of sit in a romance that is based on an actual romance. Like that and it might just be my bias in listening to it, but when you hear Tyler and Walter banter, it's based off of 15 years of love. And so there is an authenticity to the joy that is hard to find. It's you hear so many people talking about, oh, the casting and the chemistry, and we really cast the right people. It's like, it's, not that we are Walter and Tyler, but that is evident when you listen to it. So it's fun and beautiful and just sort of this, I don't know, flowering gift of love in the world.
Okay, Billy. it's
How
your
am I
turn.
going to follow flowering gift of love to the world? I think
I don't know.
It
people
sucks.
I think people should listen to Moonlight and Love Songs because it's charming. It tickles. You literally listen to two people fall in love against their better judgment because they're both fresh out of breakups and they're both afraid to do it. So you get to just live in that, like, I want to, but I can't and I shouldn't. That moment that we live for, right? We may get it a couple times in our life if we're lucky, that feeling of, oh, maybe. And you get to really live in it for the full course of the episodes and remember when you touched it, even if you've been in a beautiful relationship for 15 years or wherever, or if you're in no relationship, you can remember what that is to touch that carbonated moment of possibility in love.
John, what advice do you have for new audio drama writers and producers?
The main thing I would say is concentrate on a small cast and what may seem like a relatively easy arc, though romances have their own issues. My first series, Brass, had a cast ultimately of hundreds, if not thousands. It had a lot of complexities. It was great fun to write. And I would certainly recommend people listen to it on Dramify or elsewhere.
Not elsewhere, just drama.
Just Dramify. Thank you very much. But I will say that, breaking things back down to a romance and just the two or three characters, was I think a good way to start. So find a story that speaks to you, and get some good actors, not too many of them, and just think through a good scene, as opposed to feeling like you have to make this about the most important big themes of the world or the largest ideas. Sometimes just watching two people come together, as Billy says, kind of despite their best instincts, that can be a really fun story, just all on its own. So keep it small, keep it real, and keep it personal to yourself, I think.
And I would like to invite you to tune into Dramify and give it a listen. I think you'll enjoy it. Thanks so much.